Hi, everyone. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I just wanted to come and share a little bit more about this 2025 year, also this number 9 year that we're in and its connection to the planet Mars. We've kind of already touched on this a little bit, but I definitely feel like having a expanded conversation, I think, is definitely worthy, considering how much Mars is influencing this year and just its influence on the number 9 in general. Now, Mars is, that fiery planet and associated to things such as war, even like blood, drive, desire. Your personal natal Mars can reveal things like the weapons that you choose to fight, and it's just a planet that will definitely give you a lot of insight as it pertains to matters of aggression, matters of assertion, matters of just action, physical action in general. In numerology, the number 9, as we've kind of touched on before, does represent completion, transformation, and ultimately universal power, which does akin it to representing destiny. So we can say this is a year of destiny, especially when we look back through numbers 1 through 9. So to put it simple, 2017 to 2025. When we look back to that time span, that space and time, and kind of remember who we were prior to, let's say 2017, prior to 2016 to now, I'm sure we can all kind of see where there has been quite a transformation, quite a change as we are entering this number 9 year. And this 9 year is an opportunity as we transition to a new 10-year span in 2026. This number 9 year is an opportunity to close out the cycles of this last cycle, right? This last year since 2017, 1 through 9. So I think it's important to kind of sit with ourselves this year and really figure out what this last cycle has shown us, who we were, who were you prior to 2017 versus who you are now, and more importantly, as we go into 2026 and beyond, what is it that you will not be bringing with you, right? What cycles and what patterns and what habits and things that are just not serving anymore need to be kind of closed out and put to rest? Because ultimately, the goal is always ascension. The goal is always, evolving and growing. And if we're in this number 9 year, keeping in mind that this is a year of destiny, and not only is this a year of destiny, y'all, because I think it's important to highlight that this is not just a number 9 year, right? This is a number 9 year that also has a lot of cosmically interesting, to say the least, things occurring that are almost unprecedented, things that have not been experienced in our lifetime, that really speak to the fact that we are truly entering a new age, a new time. And we can get into the astrology of that later, but that's what to me gives this particular number 9 year kind of an asterisk, because this is the year where things change rapidly. 2025 going into 2026, things are changing fast. And that fast change to me is also fueled by Mars. If we look even at the way how the calendar year started, we started this year with Mars in this cycle of aspect with Pluto. Mars actually is in retrograde in Leo, opposing Pluto. I think right now, as I record this video, Mars is actually ingressing into Cancer. But seeing how that conversation played out, right? It's like this year started with like a burst of energy, so to speak. Pluto being in Aquarius, and that in itself, I'm going to try not to get too much, I'm going to try not to have too much astrology talk, but it's really worthy of noting when we're talking about the changes that are happening. Pluto being one of the outer planets are all shifting from these feminine signs into masculine signs, and this is happening this year. Now, of course, the shifts are not going to be permanent because, like always, a planet ingresses into a sign, it does a little retrograde dance back into the sign that it was in for a while, and then initially, and then ultimately moves into the sign permanently, well, not permanently, but for a longer term, later, which it will, for a lot of the outer planets, this will happen. It will ingress into these masculine signs, and then ultimately in 2026, a lot of them will station in these signs after a retrograde period. So that in itself will be different. And what we're witnessing is a true change in humanity that is happening right before our eyes. And that shift that is occurring is noteworthy. It is something that is unprecedented, and it's definitely not to be taken lightly. So that's why this number 9 year is not just another cycle ending and starting. It's not just another death and rebirth. It is literally, for us in our lifetime, one of the most important times that we've experienced when it comes to the shift, the change. If you've been hearing about the age of the Aquarius, if you've been, hearing about us going into these new paradigms and, shifting into these new energies and things that are dissolving, old practices and, old paradigms that are dissolving and, rebuilding from a place of more community oriented. And this is the time, y'all. This is the time. It's happening. And I'm not saying that Mars is the planet that is kind of solely responsible for ushering this new energy. I would definitely say that Mars is fueling this new energy for sure, especially when we look at, again, starting the year with that Mars retrograde Pluto connection. Also, Mars being even in the conversation of the two outer planets, Neptune, Saturn, ingressing into Aries this year, Aries being ruled by Mars. And I think we have all fire sign Mercury retrogrades, or I think we have one where it's at the end of the year. So I think it's a air sign. But nonetheless, we start out with a, what do you call it, Aries, Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde in Aries, again, all connected to Mars. So I definitely do feel that Mars is fueling the change as we kind of step into this new territory that is quite different, quite new. And because of that, I think it's important to kind of know how to, I hate to say this because it's like kind of cheesy, but know how to hold your fire. Mars being connected to fire, hold your fire, use your fire. And that's kind of what I wanted to end this conversation with. I love the saying that Mars can be the planet that keeps you out of the mental hospital, but it can also be the planet that gets you into the mental hospital. And really all that means is, how do you use that Mars energy? How do you use the Mars energy to bend to your will? Mars being connected also to your will. And I think understanding that is going to be vital in winning this 9 year. And from what I've gathered, based off of certain alignments and symbolism, based off of the connection of Mars and this 9 year, I think one of the ways that we really win this year is through the idea of order and motion. Definitely taking into consideration Saturn ingressing into Aries for a short period of time this year, which can highlight, a moment of kind of questioning or seeking to understand kind of our new identity, right? As this time is changing. But order and motion, order meaning consistency, motion meaning movement. um, yeah, and that's going to mean that maybe we have to have routines. Another thing that I think will help us to win this year is discipline. It's important to remember that with everything, there's like a low aspect and there's a higher aspect. And I feel like we all aim to meet the highest version of ourselves, right? To kind of call in the highest version of ourselves. So drive. And then lastly, inspired action. And for me, I love that because yes, Mars does give us the need for movement action, but it's important for us to have inspired action, meaning have discipline, have order in your motion. It's not just moving haphazardly. It's not just being impulsive. It's not just, doing things on a whim, but actually moving from a place of insight, moving from a place of stillness. And that actually leads to what I would like to discuss in the next video, which is the 9 and the connection to the Hermit card in tarot, because that to me will reveal to us a lot of about how it's important to be still in this 9 year and maybe even kind of retreat to ourselves so that we can make our movements from a place of understanding, understanding, and it's not just using that Mars Aries energy for impulsive movement, keeping in mind that this is a year, once again, you guys get sick of me for saying this, completion. So moving with that understanding from a place of inspired action. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk to you guys about regarding this Mars connection. Just to recap, this is a destiny year. We're being fueled by these Mars influences strongly. We want to will it to our ascension, will it to our best perspective when it comes to our own ascension. And to do so, we can lean into the ideas of the discipline, the inspired action, the order and motion, taking into account that these are the ways that we can use the Mars themes to fuel us as we move through this year, which will be riddled with change. And not to mention, we have some strong planetary alignments that we'll be facing, June. Strong planetary alignments that we'll be facing even right here in March. So a lot of things that are just going to be happening. But as these things are happening and things are changing and shifting, and reality is being dissolved, Neptune going into Aries, our reality being dissolved and our egos being dissolved, leaving us to question, who am I? Who am I? Saturn going into Aries, like, who am I? What do I stand for? And so having a basic principle foundation to kind of revert back to when we face those moments that are sure to come up, that are sure to surface. Discipline, inspired action, order and motion. Discipline, inspired action, order and motion. And if we have these things in place, when those moments come up, it reminds us to revert back to my core principles. That leaves us in a place where we're not feeling completely stripped. And that to me is important because what can happen is things can move too fast. And when we are discussing mental wellness, emotional wellness, if you are not positioned to accept, to, move in accordance with some of the shifting energy, it can leave you feeling quite naked, right? Without the comforts of yesterday, without the comforts of what we've been used to. But the truth is, in order to move on and move into this new age, this new paradigm, we have to get rid of the things we're used to. But the key, if you ask me, my humble opinion, is to make sure that we do so in a way that is loving to our soul. Having a foundation in place where you can kind of always revert back to that foundation and just remember to move from a place of discipline, inspired action, keeping in mind that order plus motion, not just order, not just motion, but order plus motion is needed. If we can harken back to those ideals, as we move through this number 9 year, I think we'll be okay. As a matter of fact, I think we will be amazing, especially going into that number 1 year, 2026. We could do this. Not only can we do this, we can do this and we can win the year. And winning this year doesn't mean acquiring things. It doesn't mean acquiring material things. The things that you will acquire in this number 9 destiny year are spiritual gifts. So, yeah, I'm going to leave you guys there because I feel like I've talked way too much. And next time we're going to talk about the number 9 and its connection to the Hermit and what the Hermit can teach us about this year. Remember, the Hermit is a Virgo card. I am a Virgo, so I love that Hermit card energy. And I'm looking forward to that conversation. But for now, I hope you guys are well, and I will leave you there.